Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Saga and today we will be taking a look at the item Slingshot. This item has been talked about a lot, and to people who are new to Temtem competitive scene at the moment, I would just like to give you a quick summary of this item. This item basically, whenever you do less than 20% damage, it basically gives you +1 speed, +1 defense and +1 special defense. On paper it might not look that strong, but for anyone that has been playing Temtem for a while, they can clearly, just looking at the glance of this item itself, get an idea of how broken it can be, and sometimes more than other are literally abusing the stats that this item has to offer. Kami, what do you say about the item as well, if you wanted to explain it to newcomers in one of your sentences?
Well, to keep it brief, the item is very problematic, and it's probably the most busted thing we've ever seen in Temtem. It gives so much value it gives you so much value for doing so little, and hopefully it gets nerfed soon.
Without wasting any time, let's get into the first item that we have here, which would be a Valiar. This has almost not been seen much, but I have seen some people here and there trying to use Valiar, and I think this item by itself has no spot in the competitive scene at the moment. I didn't see any productive use, but Kami, do you think having Slingshot on this item is any better than using this item at all? Because I don't see much value on it. I might put it on depression as well.
Well, Valiar is the worst time in the game currently, in my opinion. Well, probably close to Tutsu, but I would probably drop it in the lowest tier. You use Slingshot it to become fast and have faster bamboozle, but I think there's just so much better uses for Slingshot that putting on Valier would be a wasted slot, and even using Valier in your team is probably going to be a wasted slot as well. The Tem has no moves.
It is very rarely seen. The only reason we are even including Valier in this list is because I did see some people running around with that item, and I think it is a waste of item. You could just abuse this item so better on other times if you would like to. Next time up on the list we have is Volarend. What are your thoughts on Volarend? I believe it has been seen with some freeze comps, right? Because Volarend did gain the cold breeze now to proc the slingshot.
Yes, 𝗂𝗶𝗆 is a move you would be using on Volarend to proc the Slingshot. It has been seen on freeze teams, but it's a pretty decent out of freeze teams by itself. If you're playing aerobic, it's very good. The defensive side, and you gain speed even faster, so you can hit that +5 hype connector even faster. It gives you a subset of freeze, like freeze isn't your main win con, but you have a freeze option to shut down certain things. I think it's very useful, and it can be purgation support as well. I think Slingshot Volarend is pretty good, very decent. I'd put it in A tier.
Yeah, I would personally agree with that as well. That is definitely where I would put it as well. Next up, we have Mawmense. Since I have played Mawmense since the day 1 or day 2 of the patch when I did get acquire and perfect, I would give my opinion on that because I was literally using it with Slingshot. While it is good, it becomes a complete tank in no time by using kick non-stop. I think it does lack where it cannot do much damage, right? It relies on mental synergies to actually get the dooms off, and doom is the only thing that Mawmense can do after being a full tank. So I think while becoming a full tank is the thing that Mawmense can do with Slingshot, but the damage potential that it can do with this item is not enough, and it doesn't justify to be in either busted, very good, or even above average, because those three categories are where the Tem can also get defenses while still being offensive. So I would put Mawmense in underwhelming from my gameplay. What would you say? Do you have any?
Also, Slingshot Mawmense can pop off in the matchups where your opponent can now remove Doom, and their Violence is nice, but it can feel like a waste of space in a lot of other matchups as well. So I would put it in underwhelming. It's not the worst Slingshot user. It actually can be pretty scary into certain matchups, as I've mentioned earlier, but most of the times it's just not that useful, I would say, even though it is a decent thing.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. I feel as well by playing so many matches with that. Next up we have is Mushook. Again, Mushook, I think, while it is a really good slingshot user just because of the fact it has P-Jab, I think most of the P-Jab and hook users are definitely including in this list because they have a guaranteed slingshot proc on every attack. But not only that, but they also reduce the defenses of the enemy. So while you are getting buffed, your enemy is getting debuffed as well, which indirectly benefits your whole team as well, as long as they do the same type of damage.
Slingshot Mushook is very good. You increase your own defenses while reducing your opponent's defenses. You gain speed, so you start to outspeed certain things that could be a threat to you. Mushook is already very tanky with parry. Most Mushooks like special defense invest as well. So getting those buffs is just really huge for it. It becomes a really hard thing to kill. So I think Mushook in A tier is worthwhile.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And anything that basically impacts the enemy team as well while impacting yourself or your team, putting your team at an advantage, I think definitely is a good slingshot user as well. So it definitely fits the A category here for sure. Next up, we have a Chimurian. Again, I think Chimurian does slingshot consistent procs with Peck, right?
Yes, that is how it procs it.
As I said earlier, for the categories S and A, the Tems have to be doing some kind of impact on enemy team as well while benefiting yourself. But I believe Slingshot Chimurian cannot do that. So I think we would be putting it in B above average because it is good damage, definitely more than what Mawmense can do, but it cannot really debuff enemy team in any way, shape or form. So I think we would put it on B, right?
Yes, the issue with Slingshot Chimurian is that you would probably prefer to just click CPG instead of a Peck, because CPG is a very high damage move and you're probably losing out on potential damage to buff yourself. And to further buff yourself, you'd probably make use of Sharpening as well, so you have to click Peck into Sharpening to hit that raid boss status. You have no ways to heal yourself either. Chimurian is naturally tanky, so it does appreciate the buffs, but I think you'd probably first click CPG. It's not bad per se, it's pretty good, and buffing defenses on a disgraced Chimurian can make it even harder to kill, meaning that your opponents have to probably rotate even more and losing more applying more debuffs on this side. It's not bad, it's actually pretty good, but I think there are just better uses for Slingshot. So I think B tier is like the right spot for Slingshot Chimurian.
Next up, we have Wiplump. I believe I'm gonna let you cover Wiplump because clearly you have dealt with more freeze teams than I have. So I guess it's another freeze team user as well for Slingshot.
Yes, Wiplump is a term that only appears in freeze. It sadly has no real usage outside of freeze teams, as if you want a water wind time, you would probably go 𝗂𝗀𝗽𝗚, Shrine Zone, the physical variant. But his Slingshot Wiplump is actually very scary. If you're up against a freeze team, you might want to look to ban either the Wiplump, Volarend, or even the Snowstorm Murmur to deny possible freezes. Wiplump is very tanky naturally. It has high special attack as well, so it becomes tanky and it hits you very hard, while also hard CCing you with freeze. It's just a very scary thing to face, and I would only place it in B tier because it has no real use outside of freeze teams. But within freeze teams, Wiplump with Slingshot is very, very terrifying, I would say.
That's good, that's good. Next up, we have Nidrasil. I would clearly say that Nidrasil is probably one of the most busted abusers of Slingshot. And to new people who do not know, I would like to explain a little bit on this and take our time on this, Kami, because I think this time definitely needs to be either fixed or Slingshot definitely needs to be a quick fix has to be done, because there's this new move that Nidrasil got, which is Depress, which is a special attack as well. And as of right now, if you do Depress with Slingshot, you will get the 𝗬𝗏𝗃 procs as well, while you also get the Slingshot procs. And the problem with this, I believe, is that you get 120 true damage and 37.5% true damage on top of it with the toxic ticks, correct?
Yes, so you get around 25% of initial true damage, and with the 3 toxic ticks from its trait, 37.5, you get 3 buffs as well. So you get 3 buffs, and your opponent loses around 60% HP over 3 turns with 1 move. It's ridiculous. They're just so strong right now with Slingshot.
Yeah, so from a Nidrasil perspective, your turn 1 is going to be Spores on one of the opponents, which is gonna do 3 poison ticks and give you a buff. Turn 2 is going to be a Depress on other opponent Tem, which is another 120 true damage plus 3 poison ticks, and you're getting buffs again. At that point, I think the game is so much moving in your favor because those poison ticks do the work as well for you while your Nidrasil gets tanky.
It's very hard to deal with. You need like 3 or 2 times to beat a buffed up Slingshot Nidrasil, and even then it's not even a guaranteed victory. It's just a very, very hard time to deal with.
Next up, we have a Gyalis coming up. Again, Gyalis I have seen very rarely being used. I assume it would be either Glass Blade or Double Gash for proccing. Um,
Probably helicopter kick, actually. I have
hmm.
seen a high level player make use of this, and I believe they were using helicopter kick to. Since you hit 2 targets, you have 2 chances to hit the under 20% mark to get the buff, and that's probably what they made use of. You get Gyalis even tankier, makes it even harder to kill, probably more mirroring value on top of it as well. So yeah, it's
Hmm.
an interesting slingshot user. Probably not the easiest one to make use of. There might be better options. I would personally put it in C tier.
One of the terms that has been popping a lot with Slingshot lately, it even made in the last finals if I remember, is basically Akranox. So I think Akranox is doing really good. Again, the poison takes do play a big part in this as well. I believe it can have venom spread as well. Can be a little bit aggressive, and those defenses can be really good on Akranox.
So yes, you click Sting to get your slingshot box. You apply, I believe, 3 poison ticks as well. That probably isn't where the majority of your damage comes through. You get tankier. You have your earth damage as well. You might want to make use of venom spread to take advantage of those, to even do more damage and take advantage of those toxics you've already applied. You have cage utility as well with 𝗂𝗶𝗴𝗴. It's pretty good. It's a very good slingshot user being made use by Plat and I believe Bennett as well, 2 very high level players. So I'd put it in A tier. I think that's where it belongs.
Yeah, that sounds about right for the Akranox. Next up, we have Osukai. Do you have any thoughts on this? Because I believe 𝗬𝗶𝗶 was playing Osukai last time I saw him play it in a stall team, and he was using the trait where if you rest, you get 2 turns of Lifeful Sap or 2 turns of regeneration, basically. So first you make him a tank, and then you just rest in between turns, and then you keep doing dim mag for true damage, or I think Doom, 5/5 ppeh, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, so 𝗬𝗶𝗆's whole playstyle with this was to hook. Sure you increase your attack, but you're actually just hoping to get the buffs so you can actually doom your opponents with the 5 PPE. H move, it's actually very scary in the right matchups, but I wouldn't say it's as good as other hook users. And I am yet to see a damage version, but the question is why even play a damage version of Osukai when you have Seismunch available as a slingshot user? So I think it's actually a respectable slingshot user. I'd put it in B. It can be very, very good and very, very hard to deal with. But with reset and purgation everywhere, the whole Doom playstyle might not be the strongest. It's like Mawmense, but a bit better, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why Doom Thems are not getting that much traction because almost every time around is running purgation nowadays. Purgation is being so common lately, so I can see why
Yeah,
this
and
one cannot
reset
be.
plays Doom as well.
Oh yeah, reset as well. Yeah, definitely, I can see what you mean. This is yeah, I think B is where we would put it as well. Next up, we have Cycrox. Do you have any opinions on Cycrox? Because I have not tested it myself. I have actually not even seen few people use Cycrox with the slingshot. Have you had any experience with this?
I have, and the Cycrox was trying to Doom things while being buffed, and the Dooms were just getting wiped over and over again. It was kind of sad to watch.
I believe
I
it's
guess,
the same situation as Mawmense and Osukai then, but instead, like Osukai, it cannot heal up or um, have more utility. So I think we would be agreeing to put this on C.
yeah, it's probably not as bad as Valiar, but this is, I don't know, its whole playstyle is built on Doom, and Doom is kind of struggling right now. As well as the main focus for anything, I guess having minor Doom in your team is okay, but Cycrox is all in on the Doom playstyle for the most part. So yeah, I guess C, probably borderline D tier, but it's probably not as bad as Valier because that's really bad.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I think
barely
Cycrox
making
is.
into the C, I believe. Well, the next time we have is Taifu.
So Slingshot Taifu is kind of ridiculous because it got this new move Leech, which does 35% damage, true damage by the way, and heals you 35%. It will always heal you 35% by the way, regardless of if you do less than that 35% margin. And yeah, you get buffed up very quickly. You heal a lot while being buffed up. You have a secondary heal with chain heal. You have Other utility
Revitalize.
moves you can make use of, well, you could get revitalized by your opponent to get synergy because you provide the nature synergy as well. It's just very, very strong right now. Lots of people are banning Taifu. The primary abuser of this Tem is Tsubaki. He has probably popularized this pick, I would say. I think maybe he wasn't the first one to do it, but he was the first one I saw do it at a high level.
5 months ago or before this patch, if you ever told me that Taifu would make it into S tier or a insta ban for some people, I would not have believed you. No one would have believed you, right?
Yeah, Voldemort is a Taifu OG. I've been playing a lot of Taifu before I beat this patch. I was hoping for a buff, and this was not what I wanted, because I play aggro Taifu. But Taifu is very good right now. Probably one of the, if not the best slingshot user right now. It's very, very good.
I think you would say it would be an S without a doubt, right?
Oh yeah, most definitely, without a doubt.
Next up, we have OB10. And I guess this all again comes back to the same scenario where it does almost the same stuff like Osukai, Wiplump, where it can fit into almost any team. It's a bit different than Wiplump because it can fit into any team, but it lacks the damage. So it can be tanky, it can get the bushes and be annoying at once, and it can do, I believe, is applying dooms, if I'm not wrong, right?
OB10 can apply dooms with the use of Digiturret, but I think the main purpose of Slingshot OB10 is to be tankier, to live longer, so you can get more bushes off. Maybe at a point your bow start to outspeed things if you hit a certain amount of speed with the Slingshot procs, maybe as a spark user as well for your team. It's actually a very interesting utility pick to have. Probably put it in B tier. I think it's a very good Slingshot user, but not the craziest the ones you've seen above it. But I think it's a very good Slingshot user. I rate it.
Yeah, I can see that as well, because it cannot do much more than being annoying. I mean, being annoying is something OB does by default. Slingshot enables it to do more, but if you had any other Tems that are in this list, which is from A or S, they can definitely put more value in your team than OB10 with a Slingshot can.
Yeah, I think OB10 without Slingshot is still very, very solid. I don't think it needs it that badly, but OB10 with Slingshot isn't the worst thing in the world.
Definitely. Next up, we have a Kinu. I guess I'll let you explain Kinu as well, because I believe you have that expertise department, because you are the one who tried Benefactor Kinu with 𝗧𝗵𝗆, I believe.
Yeah, I played a Sharpleaf Slingshot Kinu. It was definitely an experience for sure. Your only attack was Sharpleaf. You had no beta burst, no resin trap, so the goal is to get as tanky as possible and to heal your allies. It's actually not terrible, but sometimes not having that beta burst feels a bit bad, and you are kind of, I don't know, I think Kinu without Slingshot functions perfectly fine. It was an interesting experiment. I'd probably put it in C tier.
I'll go with that, because I do believe, again, it's the same scenario where Kinu, even without Slingshot, is still good. Let's just assume you had a mom's lunch on Kinu. I think that would provide more value because it can overexert your enemies. It just puts so much pressure on aggro teams with the mom's lunch, right? Just swap it in
I think
and it will.
there's just better options.
Items. Yeah,
there's better options for Slingshot. For like if you're playing, it would be a style team you'd be playing. I think there's just better Slingshot users like Taifu, we've mentioned, Nidrasil, Osukai possibly as well, if you want to play a style team. So I think putting on Kinu might be a waste, even though it's really not that bad on paper. You get to buff yourself very quickly. But yeah, I think C tier is where it probably belongs, because you probably wanted somewhere else on that type of team.
Next up, we have Seismunch. I have been using Seismunch Slingshot for a long while now, since it came out. I think the best use that Seismunch is getting out of this is, as long as you have a Moala and a Shaolin in your team, which can, use a bait and use that evasion from Welcomer trait, Seismunch can get easily 2 hooks off and get +2 attack, +2 defense, +2 special defense, +2 speed, at which point, he can basically outspeed almost everything that is there. Even a Wolfie with uppercut would be outsped by a +2 speed Seismunch, as long as you have the TVs correct. And you can mostly sweep with it pretty nicely if you can get that going, but I still think it is not doing as much as our busted S tier Tem. So I would put personally Seismunch into A, it can definitely get out of control the moment it gets +2 or 2 procs of slingshot basically with hook as well on the same point.
I would agree with you. Not much to add on. Everything you said was kind of spot on. It gets attack, plus speed. You don't even need synergy anymore after a couple hooks. Put it 3 prior. You become tankier, which is nice for Seismunch to live longer. Yeah, very good slingshot user. Very, very good slingshot user.
Next up we have Amphatyr. Do you have any experience with Amphatyr? I've been seeing it a lot in the ladder, but I personally did not try it yet.
I've played against it, and it's actually pretty irritating to play against because it would proc slingshot with Tesla Prison, and then it would make use of Bright Beam, and it would heal from its trait because it wouldn't be able to get touched. And it actually becomes a raid boss that heals itself, and it's actually very, very irritating. It can have Spark support as well. It's actually a very, very interesting slingshot user. It's pretty strong if you let it get out of control, but that applies to most slingshot users, I would imagine. But Amphityr's ability to buff allies and itself with sparks probably makes it even scarier than a good handful of these. I would probably place it in B tier because it's not as good as the ones above it, I would say, but it's actually probably on the higher side of B tier. Slingshot Amphatyr is really, really good. If you can get it going, of course.
Yeah, which is sometimes really hard because there's so many fires roaming around right now that do a lot of damage.
Yeah, heavy fires seem to be in fashion.
But next up we have Waspeen here at the moment, and I believe the use would be to get +5/+5 and then build another tank in your team, and then these two just keep healing each other with the Waspeen passive, I guess. But aside from that, I don't think Waspeen does anything else to the enemy team, and it literally requires a lot of setup, right? So I think it is really underwhelming in terms of slingshot use. Technically,
I think Slingshot Waspeen is only good if you can get another buffed ally next to it. Because if you do not buff its ally, you just ignore it. You just kill the other side, and you will eventually kill the Waspeen with the remainder of your Thames. It doesn't really apply too much pressure, so you need another buffed ally next to it for it to be useful. And then if you do have that buffed ally, it's actually very good. It's pretty strong. You have 2 unkillable walls, and they heal passively because of Royal Jelly. But yeah, you need to, as you said, there's a lot of setup required for this to work. And yeah, I think C tier is where it belongs because it's mostly going to be underwhelming. At least most of the time, in my opinion.
yeah, I can agree with that. It's just too much time investment required in a particular match to actually get value out of it. And the value again is not consistent at all. So yeah, I think C is where it should be belonging. Alright, Kami, the last time we have is Vulcrane.
Well, Vulcrane is probably one of the better slingshot users. Definitely goes into S tier without a doubt. The combination of hook into Stone Trench and the hook into Stone Trench again means that it gets tanky while evading. It does very big damage with Flame Meteorite. If you're playing Vigorous, the OX will one-shot probably a lot of things. Vigorous Flame Meteorite are like +3, +4, +5. You're looking at one-shots into unbuffed Thames for sure. Rishi has been abusing this pretty heavily. He is a Vulcrane enthusiast, but other people have been following in his footsteps. And yeah, Slingshot Vulcrane is very good. There have been some people who said that walking without Slingshot wouldn't be that great, but with it, it's definitely in the top 3, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with what you just said, Kami. Vulcrane definitely is really doing good with Slingshot, not only because of the stats that it gets. Like, we all know that once a Slingshot user is completely buffed, killing them is already a problem, but this thing, on top of all the defensive stats, it also gets evasion every 2 turns, which means you literally need to have 2 times on field to even do damage to this thing, because otherwise you're just gonna get evaded every other turn and you're not doing enough damage, and he can basically just kill you even with embers if it has, correct? And yeah, I think definitely one of the most busted users for Slingshot as well, for sure. Well, that brings us to the end of the list, and we have completed all of the Tems that we believe at least have been using Slingshot the most. If you guys think that we missed any Slingshot user that is really good and can appreciate the Slingshot a lot more, or can use it as well, let us know in the comments below. Just as a closing note, the Tems in the S tier which are busted, all 3 of them are completely busted in their own sense. They have their own usage and different ways of abusing Slingshot. So you need to decide which one is best for your team if you're planning to use it accordingly. If you guys have any questions regarding these users, or you're not sure which one of them fits the best in your team, you guys can definitely put down your tem.team links in the comments below. I will definitely be checking every single comment on the video, and I will try my best to help you guys with whichever of these Slingshot users is best fitted in your team. If you guys like the content, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit the notification button to get notified of new uploads. I will drop the link down for both Kami and my Twitch. If you want to hang out with us, you are more than welcome. You can always come and hang out with us, ask competitive related questions. We are always more than happy to help you out. I'll drop the link to the community Discord in the description as well. With that being said, we will catch you guys in the next video. Take care and stay safe, guys.